Welcome to American Dreams Realized. I'm Daniel Fitzgerald, and I've spent the last 20 years helping entrepreneurs live their American dream. Traveling from coast to coast, training and consulting with hundreds of entrepreneurs, helping them to grow their businesses and create generational wealth. I wrote the book Your Business Pipeline, the roadmap to entrepreneurial success, to show business owners how to work on their business and not in it. And I've launched the nonprofit American Dreams Realized, founded to help entrepreneurs achieve their own American dreams by offering grants to help them succeed. Entrepreneurs starting a new business or looking to take their existing business to the next level can apply for a grant right here on AmericanDreamsFoundation.org. And on this show, American Dreams Realized, I interview leaders, rising stars, and successful entrepreneurs as we uncover how they're living their American dream. Welcome to American Dreams Realized. My guest today brings an international flavor, Zenon Olbrys.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on board with us. Zenon has a storied background internationally as well as here in the States, a true success story in the finance world, and looking forward to hearing the tale.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So you are a basketball player.
Yes. Played a little bit in, of course, high school, a bit in college, mid-majors, and spent a couple of years in Europe playing not a significant role, but a contribution role. Yes.
And you were born in Poland.
I was.
But how old were you when you came to the States?
Yeah, I was 6 months old. I realized I didn't like Poland enough, so we had to move.
Terrific. So you went back to Europe. Tell us how that transpired. Where did you start, and what got you there?
Yeah, it's actually quite logical, not so strange. I was working at a large bank in Columbus, Ohio, and I was part of the executive development program. And one of my very good colleagues there was a Latvian American, and this was in 1992-3 in that time frame. And if you recall, history at that time was Russia was opening up. The Soviet Union broke apart. And opportunities were being created for people who knew, for example, how to build a bank or a stock market or so. And my friend was the Latvian American guy, went back to Riga, which is the capital city of Latvia, and was asked to start their stock exchange. And when he was there, he met all these entrepreneurs, Latvian, Russian, that whole region. And as you probably can guess, banking is the beginning of a lot of the macroeconomic development of any country. Mm-hmm. And they asked him and said, "Hey, do you know any people who know how to build and run banks that would be interested to come out here?" And my friend, his name is Carlos, he thought of me.
Terrific. So you moved to Latvia and had some pretty good success stories there, right? I think we've got a couple of your clippings, so I hope you don't mind if we throw them up.
Of course, yeah.
And some of these you may not have seen in a while, but I think they're very interesting. So what was this? Is this an award or a certificate?
It is. I wound up spending about four, almost 5 years in the country of Latvia, primarily in banking, but banking, insurance, as well as some other businesses. And quite frankly, that did work out quite well for me. It worked out quite well for me so that the last year in 2000, I was nominated for a Businessman of the Year candidate. And that was a great honor because I was the first foreigner to have that as an opportunity. And I came in third place, actually.
Yeah, there's that young man right there.
Very long ago, yeah. At the tail end of Latvia, I was afforded the opportunity to go to Oxford University, and that was an executive development and global leadership program. And the nice thing about that particular picture is that was a group that I, behind the scenes, was kind of really doing things for the group, and we had the highest score in the history of Oxford simulation competition. So our names are on a plaque at Oxford University, so that's kind of fun and prestigious.
So you hit the ground running in Latvia. And then where did you go from there?
Yeah, again, a logical step. So while I was in Oxford, I met a gentleman, a Polish person who was leading one of the major corporations there. And he kind of looked at me and said, hey, listen, you're in Latvia, you're doing business in Russia, but you're Polish born. It doesn't seem to make sense. Why don't you come to Poland and come work with us there? And that transpired into myself getting an opportunity to work with an entrepreneur in Poland. And that also led into some basketball opportunities where I got involved in sponsorship and ownership of a basketball team.
Well, that's great. But the real basketball connection happened in Lithuania,
Right.
right? So, and Lithuania is, you're explaining that Lithuania basketball there is kind of like the NFL here in the States, right? And here we are in Dallas filming, and of course the Dallas Cowboys are, that's all anybody talks about here. So what's the correlation in Lithuania?
Yeah,
basketball?
I think that's a very good comparison because they say in Lithuania the main religion of Lithuania is basketball. It's that important, and much like here, if you're dealing with Jerry Jones or Mark Cuban or these people, but Jerry Jones, you're associated to something that's super important. And I was fortunate to be a basketball guy doing business, but because of that in our business, I was pulled into basketball, and I met a lot of the ministers, the professionals, the entrepreneurs, and that got me really well connected. And through that, it got me to be somewhat of someone who was quite had to be social and visible and representing a company. And I got
That
to,
looks like you
um,
look like a GQ model here.
yeah, that was in better days, slimmer days, and all that. But I think that when you're a foreigner in these countries, and then you connect with something like basketball or some other things, then of course they welcome you, they promote you, and I think that was also a very important step for me in my business success that we had out there as well.
Fantastic. So from Lithuania, I know you mentioned Russia as being one of the countries that you were actually looking to get to even earlier than this, and you did make that happen. How did that occur?
Yeah, again, some fortunate opportunities in Lithuania got me visibility in the region. Of course, that was quite a one business region, and I got on the target list of the largest private equity group in Russia, who was trying to build an insurance and banking empire, if you will, and they recruited me and invited me to go to Russia and basically work for them to do what is called here a roll-up, to acquire companies and integrate them and make them cohesive through systems and software and product development, and that went pretty well for us as well for those 4 years I was in Russia.
So you had a lot of accolades in all four of those countries, and really, as a young guy, really built a name for yourself in those countries. So, with that success, and kind of like a cult hero over there, what brought you back to the States?
Yeah, I think it was the realization that, okay, we could joke about it, but you do have these accolades, and you think you've accomplished a lot, but one of the things I didn't accomplish was probably the perfect family life. And what happened in 2010 is we were blessed with the birth of our young son. And I realized that for the last 17 years in Europe, I was too busy basically trying to be a great big business person, that I didn't really focus too much on my family. I do have a daughter, she's out there, but when my son was born, we thought really long and hard about where we should raise him, and the logical place for us was, of course, in the United States.
Okay, well, everything we've talked about so far has been in the finance world, right? And what you achieved over there. When you came here, how did you segue into home services?
Yeah, it's so the whole idea of coming back to the United States, my wife and I were targeting, actually, of all places, to go to Florida, Miami, but on a trip back to Connecticut, which is where I was raised. I made a point of getting together with an old high school friend of mine who was really successful in the home improvement space, very, very successful. And he was telling me, this was 2011. So you have to think about 2011. For those of you who would remember the economic situation back then, that was the tail end of the Great Recession here. So, things that were related to finance and financing, they were very challenged. So this entrepreneur was telling me about that things are tough because financing has dried up and that his sales are not what they used to be. And I looked at, he was obviously a super successful guy, and to this day, super successful. And I just kind of looked at him and I said, Larry, well, you obviously are very successful. Why don't you just build a captive finance company? And he looked at
A finance company
for the home improvement, his home improvement business. He was in basements and foundations and various other things. So exactly, finance company for the home services.
Okay,
right?
that makes sense.
So we went ahead and we did that together, and that wound up being my introduction to the home services, which then I learned, quite frankly, how important it is here in the United States, and quite frankly, how noble of a business it is here as well.
So what challenges did you face in getting into that home services realm?
Yeah, for us, is think about it. 2011, trying to do finance company. Nobody was in a hurry to give us a license. So the really cool thing about Larry is that we were told no every time we tried to do something. When we went to get a bank, try to get a license, they said you will never get a license. He said, just figure out a way to get a license. So I figured out a way to get a license. And then we had to get financing, and we were told by the banks, no, it's too speculative of a time, and we're not ready for that. But we went ahead and put the business plans together. He wound up making the investment, and then we overcame that. So we had lots of obstacles at that time to getting the say the administrative and the legal side of it going up and running. But once we got it up and running, it was embraced, because again, if you think about it, back then the big finance companies were not really providing the solutions. So we really became the go-to for his particular network, and it blossomed, and we were fortunate enough to be able to sell it to a bank who exactly is in the home improvement financing sphere. So I was able to be around home improvements for a good 3-4 years at that time.
And today, you're the CEO of Mycroft.
Which is a home improvement finance company, but very specific, because what Mycroft is it is a solution provider, a financing solution provider for the HVAC business in the form of a lease to own. And what we do is we provide solutions to the subprime customer. So think about it this way: if you're less fortunate from a credit profile, and you have to go ahead and get an HVAC unit when it's 110 degrees here in Dallas, Texas,
Right.
or whatever, 0 degrees in Madison, Wisconsin, and you don't have a great credit profile, there's not very many options for you. So the founders of this company developed a really cool product, the lease to own product, that enabled to provide solutions to those people who have very few options. So the thing that I've always liked about our business is we make an impact on 2 levels. We provide a solution to somebody who has a challenged financing situation or credit situation, and we help a small business prosper by getting them incremental sales.
So let's say a contractor is in the home and they're talking to a homeowner that has a problem with their HVAC system, right, or their water heater.
Yep.
And they apply for financing and they get turned down.
Yes.
And today, I mean, everything's so stringent that
Yes.
it happens frequently. So they can then turn to Mycroft.
Yes.
And it's a lease to own proposition. It seems like with what's going on today that would be very advantageous.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Dan. The last 2 years is that the business opportunities for us to be impactful for our customer base are that much more so for exactly the reasons you brought up. The credit environment the last 2 years, the financing environment has been challenged. Interest rates have gone up. Credit boxes, as we call it, have tightened. So there's less organizations that are providing options to those types of customers, and that class of customer has actually grown. As a matter of fact, there was a statistic that came out in the press not too long ago that the subprime customer has increased 1.2 million persons from the previous year into last year. So think about that, 1.2 million people who could have qualified for traditional financing no longer do.
Wow.
So that is our ability to impact those customers with a positive solution.
And working in the home services field, helping entrepreneurs, and that's kind of my area for many years. One of the big things that they need to be able to do is raise their closing ratios, meaning they go into a home 10 times. How many times do they come away with a sale? So this is very important if they are dealing with someone who is ready to buy, but they get turned down by the finance company and they don't have the cash to be able to pay right up front. So that's huge, and we're in a tough time right now. So
Yeah, I think you know this very well. Is I believe the single most common objection for a customer to be able to take you up on your offer for a home improvement project is I don't have the cash, and now I don't have the credit card capacity in our current environment as well. So this financing option is very critical right now, has been for the last year, and it will continue, of course, for this year until that there's a better recovery for the macroeconomic environment in 2025, hopefully.
So how does the process work for a contractor to be able to make that connection with their client, the homeowner?
Yeah, again, since we call ourselves kind of a third look solution provider, so typically a contractor would have a financing partner, which is a bank or one of the prominent financing companies who provides solutions to the prime. And what we do is either partner up with that contractor or with that lender, so that there's, as we call it, a waterfall effect. So if somebody doesn't get approved, so you only get one application, right? So you don't have to do a credit pull or something like this many times.
So is there a credit pull for Mycroft?
For us, there's not a credit pull. It's a little bit complicated for us. For our core product, there's no credit pull whatsoever, and there's no hard pull that is with any of the main agencies. We do have a better, let's say, a targeted product for that second look category, where we do, in fact, take a credit pull at the end of the process. But that is for a class of applicant that I would call a sub near prime, if that makes sense to you.
Okay.
Yeah. But for our core product, which is still 80% of our business, no credit pull. So we use alternate data sources to make those decisions.
So where do you see Mycroft going now over the next 24 and 25?
Yeah, we're lucky right now in that we are completing an equity raise and a top up of our senior facility. So what that means for us is that we could continue to grow. We had a wonderful year last year. I'm not here to promote the company, but we did grow about 65% last year, and we do have the ability to continue to grow for the next 3 years for sure. And I think it's about product development. It's about improving our processes, for making it super easy for the contractor as well as the applicant, so that the process is seamless and kind of intuitive. We're not there yet. We're working on it, but we can do that and continue to be more impactful for those customers who could continue to have challenged financing situations.
Fantastic. Well, that's exciting. So, what's a little bit unique is that you've actually now rolled your sleeves up, and you're actually working in a situation where you're the contractor.
Sure.
How did that happen? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, maybe this all happened many years ago, going back to the Morehouse, because when I would be able to talk with contractors, of which you know very many and very well. Well, two things is I understood that it is a good business, and it is, again, very impactful, because if you think about it, what you're doing is you're working to either preserve or improve the most important asset for the typical American, the homeowner, right? So you're doing something really noble. So I've always wanted to be directly involved in the home services space, and I was provided an opportunity to join a franchise to get into garage flooring organization and retrofits. Okay. And literally I did have to roll up my sleeves many times, because my installers wouldn't always show up on time, so I had to roll up my sleeves sometimes and do jobs as well.
And that was Hello Garage.
That was Hello Garage, yes, sir.
Okay, and so what does it feel like working directly with the consumer? You had been working with the contractors, and now you're consumer based. What was the anything unique about that?
Well, I think the things that you probably immediately focus in on is that as a small business person, obviously what you have to do is figure out a way to get or acquire customers, right? So it gets into
marketing,
marketing, right, and messaging and things like that. And one of the things that I learned very early on is that when you're a new company with a new brand, that investment is massive. You have to really get out there and let people know that you exist, be visible, make those investments, and understand that that's an investment. And I think we succeeded in that. I think the other challenges were, and it's a couple of years, those 3-4 years ago when I did this, the labor force issues. It's
Yeah.
very challenging to get dependable people to come work for you and stay with you. So those were very demanding and challenging issues. And by the way, just to bring us a connection to it, the fact that I'm in the contracting business is really important for the financing business because that gives me credibility in their eyes. So if
True.
I'm talking to a contractor about a financing solution and I'm whatever, a banker or something, I'm not really interesting to them. But when I mention to them, I know how hard it is to acquire a new customer. I know how hard it is to sell in a home. I know how hard it is to close a deal, and we know how hard it is to fulfill a job with labor, right? So there's a good credibility with that. And I think that with customers, of course, it's always being first and foremost keeping them happy. But the trick I learned is to keep them happy and remain profitable, which is not easy.
Yeah, that's everything. I mean, that's the entrepreneurial
Yes.
strategy, right?
Yes.
So I absolutely love the venture that you're in now. I mean, it's talk about that something that is giving back to what's needed today. Oh my God. So give us a little rundown of what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of us, in my age, can really relate to this. And there's a story behind it. So some 8 years ago, when my mom passed away, my dad was left by himself, right, and in his home, up in his years, in the 70s or so. And you start thinking about what do you do with your parents as they age, right? And this was before this concept of aging in place really is becoming a little bit more common in terms of terminology. But we're dealing with dad, and we're thinking, well, what's the right thing to do with dad?
Right.
And my dad he's passed now, but he was as I say, a crotchety Eastern European. We all are. And I was talking to dad. I said, maybe you should go live with my sister, your daughter. And he's like, hey, son, I've lived in this house 35 years. I'm going to die in this house. Well, then the thought came up, well, you have to make it so that he's safe in the house, that he's secure, that he's comfortable in the house.
Right.
And of course, as he got older, he would fall in a bathroom, fall downstairs and things like this. So the business idea is very much to make sure that our aging parents or people who are coming back from a rehabilitation in the hospital can do that at home, because it's already proven that you rehabilitate better at home. And of course, you feel better and more comfortable in your home.
Absolutely.
So this idea of Zen house, peace and comfort in the home, is meant to allow people to age gracefully and comfortably and securely in place of their home, be happy and confident there.
So Zen House.
Yes.
Zen, I love it. And it ties you and your background and your history together. And Zen also has the double entendre, right? It's
Yes.
you, but it's also it's Zen. So it works. And I'm with you 100%. I think we all can relate. The older we get, we realize our own parents and the baby boomers. I mean, some of the older baby boomers are in that stage themselves. Others are dealing with with family members, and to me, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You've got one side, which is quality of life, and the other side you touched on, which is safety. And we know that the safety concerns are huge, because as soon as someone falls, they break a hip, they break their rehabilitation period can be so long that they might not get back in their house. So give us a little bit of insight on what the company is doing in there
Well,
to help them.
the main things that we learned is what you have to really be prepared to do is, first of all, it's a mobility solution. So it's things like ramps and maybe lifts, chair lifts and things like this. But I think mobility is first and foremost, so that people can maneuver around their house comfortably. Second thing is always with the bathroom, because the bathroom is the most dangerous place in the home. If you don't have a walk-in bath situation or being able to do everything so that you can almost comply with, say, the ADA or something, so that everything is catered and comfortable to the the heights and the widths of everything you need. So you're probably going to open up doors and lower sinks, do things to make it more comfortable for people and safe for people in the bathtubs, and do some modifications in the kitchen so that you might lower some cabinetry so that it's easier to grab things. Because if you think about it, if you're grabbing high, you're going to it might be too heavy, and you can go ahead and hurt yourself and drop some dishes. So it's primarily bathrooms, mobility, and some kitchen modifications.
So let's say hypothetically, someone is in the hospital for whatever reason. They're an older person, or they have, or they fell, as we say, and they've rehabilitated there. They're coming out. They're going back home. In order for them to be able to move back into their home, the hospitals will oftentimes mandate that you have whatever is needed. So if it's a wheelchair ramp, if they have those kind of mobility issues, they won't release them until they know that home is ready. So that, and the other alternative is to go into a home, right? And as you say, but they don't want to go into homes, so they want to stay in their home as long as they possibly can. As caregivers, to our parents, we want them in the home as long as possible. So these are huge, just huge opportunities, and really, really needed.
Yeah, you said so yourself. It's really, if you look at the United States, the demographics of the United States right now, it is the baby boomers that have the biggest population, then the younger folks as well. But really the baby boomers. So right now, what we're talking about is going to become a very normal part of life as we all age. We're all going to have to think about it for ourselves, and obviously for our parents or our siblings as well. And I think that really, if you think about it, if you can design a business or actually execute on a business that's impactful like this for, again, safety, health, security, I mean, that's probably the best way to go from any kind of a business, right? You're really providing a solution to a critical need for us in the coming years, for sure.
So you're headquartered in Atlanta.
Yes.
And the flagship dealership is in Atlanta right now, being built. The plan is to franchise or create dealerships throughout the country and every market to be able to help. The problem is chronic.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But we have to, as you know, when you start a business, you have to walk before you run. So the one thing is to prove out the concept in Atlanta, which is a very good market because it's large, growing, as well as it has a good representation of the aging. And then to your point, it's still not developed if it will become kind of a corporate or licensing model. Probably licensing makes sense. But being here in Dallas, there's already some partners that are interested to monitor our success in Atlanta so that we can replicate this in Dallas and in Houston as well.
So will there be packages that homeowners can opt into? Because everyone doesn't need everything. There's different situations where someone comes in, and if it's a wheelchair, there might have to be widening in certain areas, and there might also, in the kitchen, maybe lowering counters or changing out the counters so that most of what they're doing can be done in the lower areas. They can't access the top. So how does this work? Are there packages they can opt into?
Yeah, I think that what's important to emphasize is that it's that usual type of a formula that the majority of the jobs, the installations, would be, say, 80% the same, meaning that it's going to be a mobility effort, a ramping, widening, access for the wheelchairs. The other thing that it's going to be is going to be a bathroom retrofit. The kitchen could be a slight modification. So you would say that the key to this is come up with a turnkey solution, because a lot of what I've learned as we've gotten into this business is that the customer is also relying on you to guide them and say, okay, this is the turnkey solution. This is the standard. So we're going to go have the ramps, again, second floor, first floor access to the house, the bathroom modifications, and we can do this in the kitchen. But then, of course, there are some of the specifics, the custom work that can be done as well. And it gets to things that you're saying. There'll be some of the shelving or island modifications to bring them to sizing so that they're comfortable. But the core will be mobility, bathrooms, and some kitchen modifications.
And I'm understanding that you've recruited an all-star player in the production side of the business, which of course is the hands-on part of it.
Yeah, very much so. It's critical. The gentleman Bradley Hall who's joined and doing this. He's 20 some years building homes, custom homes, and was very, very interested in the idea because he also understands the need for it. But he also obviously has great experience doing it over 20 some years. And a thing I learned from my Hello Garage is that, hey, you really have to have practical hands-on experience to get this right. It is about quality. It's about efficiency. It's about doing it well. So I'm fortunate to have a very solid partner like him.
Fantastic. So, Zenon, from a 28-year-old guy moving to Latvia and winning awards and, in places like Oxford, of all places, to coming back to the States, using everything you built and learned and all of your credibility to set up financing companies here and take Mycroft and Finance Alternative and turn it into a huge success story, to the hands-on stuff with Hello Garage. And now, again, I love the Zen House concept. And, I think that's the future that's really needed. And I think it's a great idea. And I think it's going to be incredibly successful. So what else would you like to let us know in conclusion?
Well, maybe since we're really talking about really a business and all, I think that through all those experiences in the different countries over many of the years, the thing that I explain to young entrepreneurs about ideas in business is that probably the most important thing is the right idea at the right time. Timing of a business idea is critical. It was actually the thing that, as I reflect on even Morehouse, why that was successful, it was a time that was needed because there wasn't a lot of competition. If you think about what Zen House is, it's the timing. This is an aging population that needs aging in place solutions. So I believe that this will be a very good business as well. So if you're focusing on finding a solution, is really, you might have some good ideas, but really pay attention to the time. Hey, Mycroft, the last 2 years, because of the credit challenges, the timing of being in the market at that time was what the success was last year for our growth. So yeah, pay special attention to the timing of your ideas and run hard to execute on those ideas to be prepared for the right time.
Zenon Olbrys, fantastic guest, and living the American dream. And that's what this is all about. Thank you very much for coming on board today. It was great to hear your story.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So entrepreneurs, if you're starting a business or you have an existing business and you want to take it to the next level, you can apply for a grant from American Dreams Realized. It's a nonprofit, AmericanDreamsFoundation.org. Apply for the grant and begin the journey to living your own American dream.